Alright, inmendham video. Yeah, didn't really write down a bunch, and so I'm just going to kind of try to do a little bit of a complex subjects in kind of a sloppy manner, but that's doesn't really matter because all these conversations in some way are so futile, and it really is quite discouraging and such. So anyway, I was in this stupid Piro room on Sunday. And I keep saying, I just got to stop doing this shit because it just isn't worth the trouble. I think I could do something more productive in making videos than having conversations with these brickheads. It's just a fact. So anyway, I could say the theme is going to be a conversation about civilization, what's required, and just simple little talking points, little arguments you could make, and they're just solid arguments, and they can't be refuted, and they're just kind of like facts, and there's just no way around them. And but the brickheads just, even when they agree with them, they'll just pretend they didn't agree, that it's, yes, that's a fact. And 10 minutes later, they'll just go back to arguing their same bibble babble. And, there's just, the conversation is just so useless in a way. So anyway, the general subject started with this idea, okay, that there's this, I didn't know Piro just stole it from these other people, but this stupid notion of democracy at work. And it's not even defined as anything on the website, which is kind of funny. They just have meetings and do talking, but they don't explain anything, really, about a real plan of some kind. And then, the first thing occurs to me is that, you can't just do that in the capitalist system. It's just stupid. How is that going to work? What shareholder is going to find that, oh yeah, I'm going to own shares in a company run by a bunch of, whatever, people with a bunch of self-interest counter to my self-interest. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to share power. I'm going to buy stock in companies that are draconian and horrid because that's in my interest. So it was just for that reason alone, it would be stupid. But you can just go through it a little further and just so I said certain things like, as an idea, simple. Democracy isn't a great way to source knowledge. I mean, if you want to find out what something is, right, what the truth is, you don't go ask the people on the street in some kind of democratic way, right? If I ask them, where's China? You're going to get horrible answers. I mean, some people are just so fucking stupid. It's a town in Africa. Some kind of, stupid answers. And those are simple questions. So just imagine if you up the ante a little and ask them more complex questions. Who's buried in Grant's tomb? Yeah, democracy doesn't work as a way to source knowledge, intelligence, wisdom, a good plan. It fails dismally. And so, yeah, you don't use, just because we are stuck with democracy as the only way to do this government thing outside of some sort of dictatorship where, who you trust. I think it'd be semi-okay. You could have a dictatorship, under an accountability rule. Alright, this is a side subject. But, I always make these arguments, and it's just, if somebody's a stand-up guy, they're a stand-up guy, and they'll say something like, well, look, if you catch me lying and cheating and stealing, torture me. Okay, I'm just telling you. If you catch me doing something unconstitutional, violating the constitutional rights of the people of the United States, you should torture me for as long as possible. Barely keep me alive as long as possible and just torture the fuck out of me. Because it's not going to happen. I can tell you honestly, I don't wish to be dictator so I can fuck you over. I wish to be dictator because I think I can do a good job. And I don't need to cheat. And I don't need to lie. And I don't need to steal. So if you see me stealing, you catch me with a yacht, you catch me making a deal that helps me and fucks you, yeah, torture me. I like that. It's like a governor signing death warrants and saying, look, I watched the trial. The motherfucker is guilty as hell. The evidence is fucking substantial. So, yeah, kill the fucker. And if I'm wrong, kill me. I don't mind. As governor, if I was a governor, there's plenty of criminals where you say, yeah, that was a really good trial and he's really fucking guilty. And there's other trials where you say, maybe I'm not signing. Okay, so maybe just lock him up for a while longer, like for the rest of his life. But yeah, I'm not sure. You know, those witnesses did look a little drunk. So yeah, and you didn't have any DNA. And you know, sometimes people do see Martians. You know, you never know what they're up to. So yeah, I ain't signing that one. But I'm just saying, logically, maybe that statement I just made doesn't make any sense to you at all, but it makes perfect sense to me. That accountability is what you're looking for. So anyway, that's a way of justifying dictatorship anyway. I'm just saying, if you have rules of accountability, then you can have trust, right? Because you have a rule that kind of says, yeah, that guy's not going to be fucking around. He didn't just swear on a Bible or something. He just swore that I can torture him. I mean, that's, yeah, it's a little different. Yeah, God's retribution, a little different than my retribution as a citizen. So, yeah. But anyway, so back to the subject. So they have this, there's always these silly solutions to problems in the first place. You know, the whole March on Wall Street and silly protests, and they all call themselves activists and shit. And like it means something, and failure is failure. So I've been an activist, but I've been a failure. I've had ideas for 20 years. Even like this governor's, you know, being obligated to pay a price for making a mistake. I mean, that's an idea I had decades ago. And yeah, so I failed in my activism. There's no point in explaining it to people because they gloss over, because I guess it's just too complicated a concept. Accountability, what? That doesn't sound good. I don't want to be accountable for anything. I'm a troll. Like this, most people are liars and cheaters and thieves, and so yeah, they don't. I don't want any rules against cheating and lying. I mean, that's how I make my living. You know, so yeah, this doesn't resonate with anyone, but me apparently. So anyway, so it seemed a pretty simple argument. Look, democracy isn't really what we're looking for. What we're looking for is a rational system of civilization. You know, where people go to work and they get fairly compensated for the work, where they don't do the work and then some guy who inherited a piece of paper, he gets paid more than the guy doing the work. That kind of shit doesn't make any sense. We should pay the guy who inherited a piece of paper and is sitting in his living room watching his 500-inch television. He should get paid 15 times as much as the guy doing actual work. Huh? That doesn't make any fucking sense. So anyway, what the point is you want a system that fixes the failure that exists. So we know it's failing. We know our civilization is inadequate. So my real point here was that, okay, so the first statement was this idea of democracy is not the solution. You want a system that prevents the unfairnesses. That's what you want. You want something that fixes it. Democracy is not going to fix it. And I made other points to emphasize that, in the sense that you don't want workers to be owners. Because you make a worker an owner, you make him an asshole. So, you know, Piro uses examples of these, you know, wishy-washy, wonderful cause things like Montreal. And it's just shareholders again. People who got in early. It's a pyramid scheme, right? The workers who got in early are getting 3 times the benefits of the workers going in now. That kind of thing. So it's just like a union or something. It gets full of politics and full of advantages. And it's like the Russian socialism. It just doesn't look like socialism at all. Like Chinese socialism. It doesn't look like socialism at all, right? There's billionaires over there. Is that socialism? It's a funny kind of socialism. By my definition, that's a kind of oxymoronic socialism. Doesn't sound like socialism to me. If anybody's got $1 billion, it's not socialism, for fuck's sake. And it's certainly not communism. But anyway, even simple things like that, you can't. Huh? What did you say something? Yeah, I said something. Fucktards. Anyway, so yeah, you don't want to make workers owners, because then they act like owners. And if you can't admit to yourself that your self-interest is a problem, and that your eyes, the color, your ability to see will change if I give you personal advantage in not seeing something. And you know it. I think you do. I think you know that in your heart of hearts, you'll start ignoring a lot of things you didn't ignore before when you have a vested interest in ignoring it. And that's just a human problem, and that's what you have to engineer against. So, so the argument I would make, though, is that, yes, to make a civilization, it's like engineering. And democracy isn't going to do it. You don't want a democracy to decide how to build a building. You don't go ask Homer Simpson, you know, because he doesn't have the knowledge base to do anything rational. So democracy isn't great at doing constructing civilization. It's an engineering task. And so people have to argue about what engineering schema should be in control, what kind of, and these are these principles. So the first thing engineers say, well, at least we can do is write down the basic principles before we let the morons do it. We can at least inform the morons of the basic rules. And the basic rule, one of these rules would be, don't make workers owners because they become assholes. You know, self-interested cunts who will fuck the consumer for another week's vacation. And they will. We've seen them do it. Yeah. Unions. So, you know, so the last thing you want is to have a union, a club, have any kind of, yeah, just any kind of corrupting self-interest. It's always a bad thing. Yeah. Selfishness really is a corrosive thing, in terms of when you're talking about the structure of a hive, right? I mean, bees aren't self-interested. Ants aren't self-interested. Hives just don't function unless you have some mechanism. And I'm not suggesting we should be bees or ants. We don't have to be slaves. We don't have to be chemically controlled. We can, with knowledge, know what we're doing, and we can understand, like I said, a few of these basic principles, and then within those guidelines say, you know, empower the individual. But they can't go outside of those boundaries. They have to understand that you can't build a building on a tangent. Okay, that's either flat on the ground this way or it's pointed up this way, but no, you can't do this shit. Certain rules, and you have to obey them. That's not too draconian. You know, just certain knowledge that if you have 10 kids, and we live in a civilization where people who don't have any kids are paying for them, that you should be a little bit respectful and at least say thank you for the money you steal, for the burden you impose on other people without asking them at all. And you should have a really good reason. The reason shouldn't be you're just an egomaniacal crazy fuck who just wants to see, you know, regurgitations of your own vomit. But anyway, that's probably redundant, regurgitated vomit, but who cares? Alright, so that was a simple first principle I'm saying. There's no way these assholes could argue with me that democracy isn't like Einstein. It doesn't come up with the right answer. Democracy isn't, it's just diluted intelligence. It's not big intelligence, it's diluted intelligence. But of course, no, I had to get arguments. Because they're just naysayers and nitpickers. And nothing beyond their own agenda can possibly be discussed. Or possibly be endorsed. So there's almost no point in talking to them, right? So exactly, right? What's the point? Alright. I wrote something else here. What did I write? As something as blah, blah, blah. All right, well, it's as complex. Okay, maybe. As engineering a civilization would be as complex, let's say, as some task like that, like building an airplane. It's got a lot of subtleties. You got to get a lot of these things right, or the thing catastrophically fails. And our system catastrophically fails because we can't understand a simple premise that if the rich are getting richer, the poor can't get richer, the middle class can't get richer. Everybody can't get richer because those three things are all there are. There's workers and the rich people, essentially, and then there's the other loafers, like the rich. There's poor. There's loafer poor and there's loafer rich, and then there's the worker in the middle who's getting fucked. That's basically all there is. But the point is you got to be able to figure this out, right? That if you haven't accounted for that, that's like not knowing that you need wings on the plane. I mean, if you can't figure out that if the rich are getting richer, it's not good, then yeah, that's like not knowing you need wings for your plane to fly properly. Anyway, and that's the world we live in, though. These idiots think invisible hands are going to fix things and everything's going to turn out okay, even though nothing in human history demonstrates that. It just demonstrates that, complainers are killed, the non-compliant, those who don't obey the mercenaries paid by the rich to go kill you. Anyway, rich people be bad, okay? That's one of these basic, that's like having an engine on the airplane to push it into the air. To knowledge of that fact, that you don't need rich people. They don't provide a real function, especially the inherited rich. They actually have absolutely no utility whatsoever. It's like a huge tax on your society forever. Yeah, forever. I mean, there are people in this country, I suppose, if we could go back to find the original caveman that invented the wheel, that we could say, well, we owe his descendants royalties for every wheel we use. And, we should pay them all free money for doing absolutely nothing, because their great ancestor invented the wheel. I guess there are assholes who think like that. Like, those people deserve something more. They earned it. No, they didn't. Yeah, not at all. No connection between reward and punishment and behavior. See, that's another problem. So you could say to yourself, okay, I could probably convince you that reward and punishment makes sense. Or let's call it incentives and disincentives. And that's an excellent way to guide behavior. Carrots and sticks. But let's say we don't even hit people with the stick. We just poke them a little bit. But we both know this is rational things to do. Incentives are really a good idea. But the incentive should actually have something to do with behavior that's good and bad, right? So if you don't have any rational connection between punishment and negative behavior, and instead punish good behavior, like not being in debt. All the people not in debt are going to get punished, quote unquote, when the system collapses. Because see, they didn't get to enjoy having their 50-inch television and their new car and all the other crap, their house even. They didn't get to have anything, any of those good luxuries, while the system was sustainable. And then when it's unsustainable, they're still not going to have any of that shit. And no one's going to help them stay in their house because they don't have a house to let's keep them staying in their house. I mean, it's just ironic, but I'm just saying, yes, the responsible people are going to get slaughtered. That's a bad incentive. That's putting reward and punishment not having anything to do with deserve. And then there's no real point in having reward and punishment, right? I mean, could we agree, assholes, mostly the assholes in Pierrot's room, that if reward and punishment doesn't have anything to do with deserve, our productivity, our outcomes, then it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't have any utility. Probably can't agree with that either. It just gets so stupid in so many ways. I'm in the depth of the stupidity, so I don't even know if I want to get on the sports thing, but some idiot. I made the point that if we want to have something other than idiocracy, that we sort of have to invest in something other than idiocracy, and that most people waste a ton of their productivity, their potential to give to the society, on absolute crap. And I mentioned sports. I could mention cooking shows. I could mention makeup. I could mention 5 million other things. But yes, there's a tremendous amount of time and energy invested in distractions. Video games, lots of things that are just, they're just not, they're not productive enough in terms of advancing people's knowledge base and skills to be something we should be rewarding. We should be, in fact, punishing it. There should be disincentives to get caught up in that shit. And then you could also just point out the obvious that, it's like, for example, sports, it's just so sissy. I mean, it's like old ladies watching soap operas, Days of Our Lives. That's all sports really is, right? It's just a silly, stupid fucking soap opera. Will my hero be able to do the heroic thing today? Will he break the heroic records? And it's just like some lady saying, will Alice get laid by Dr. Snickenstein? Same thing. You're owned by a soap opera, dupe. You silly turds. But it's all psychology, and I'm just saying we can give people rewards for doing something much more productive with their time than breakdancing and playing basketball and all this other crap that people get invested in. And that would be sensible. If a civilization wanted to advance and become somehow great, that's really something it probably should invest in. It should invest a little thought in how, maybe making people smarter would be a good idea. Yeah, maybe it would. Duh. Duh. Okay, never mind. All right. So that's enough on that subject. And I'll wrap this up, as I think I've made my point. Is that there's no point, because you can. So on this whole, what's the simplest solution to equity in our economy? And my argument is the only value is the worker. Now, as a society, if we want to take care of freeloaders and bums, that's fine. We can have a democracy and do that. But that should have nothing to do with the workplace and workers. That should be a separate decision. And that, so the economy is about who owns and who profits and who does the work. And my simple argument is that the workers do all of the real engineering, they do all of the real advancing, they do all of the innovating, they do all of the everything. And that the tiny contribution made by the entrepreneurs is so tiny and minuscule that you'll never miss it. Especially in a system where you start giving people bonuses, workers bonuses, for doing it. Because they'll be even better at it. But anyway, give the workers a self-interest in being even more passionate about doing a good job, because they'll have a self-interest. So anyways, just saying, a simple solution to get out of being buried by the rich, owned by the rich, is to defeat them in their own game. And so create some not-for-profit businesses, and establish 2 or 3 simple rules, and that's all you need. The engineering is minimalist, tiny bit of engineering required, social engineering, and no complex democracy inside of a capitalist corporation where none of the capitalists have an incentive to hire anyone who disagrees with them, or you know what I'm saying. I mean, yes, go ahead, have democracy at work, and I'll guarantee you're not going to have too many Democrats working anymore. So if you want to make it so only Republicans get to have a job, yes, do that, assholes. Retards. Fucknuts. Anyway, sorry. Don't need to be... but it is, I'm sorry, but yeah, I mean, these silly liberals, they think you can all do it without a brain. You can just sing a Kermit the Frog song and everything will be all right. No, it won't. You really do have to do a little bit of thinking. You can't just do this, whatever it is, this, whatever, I don't even know how to, this, let's go camping. No, this isn't camping, retards. This is engineering. Well, anyway, so the simple solution, as I've pointed out, is to just have not-for-profit businesses. That and the rule established would be the CEO gets paid $150,000, no more. Lots of incentive for a smart person to say, yeah, I could live on that. He decides if somebody needs to be paid more than him to do some special engineering or something. But generally speaking, you would expect most people would get paid less, something less. But, you know, who knows? Somebody really valuable, and if it's really valuable to the company and you got to pay the money, well, then you pay it. But the point is, nobody owns it, nobody profits. The business just runs. It's run by the CEO. He makes decisions like, well, we're going to take, you know, we're going to create a fund for expansion, and so for the next 3 years, 10% of the revenues will go into this fund to finance expansion, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. Those would be his decisions. And the simple rule would be he would be elected, okay, by a mixture of two voting blocks. The workers in the company, democracy, and the consumers. It can be either the consumers who actually buy product, they can get voting shares based on how much product they buy, or just the general public at large, which I think is fine also. But either way, and yeah, those two, see, but we're both things. I mean, this is another one, like, completely irrefutable kind of points to make, is that we wear different clothes, so to speak, in our lives. You know, in one position, you're a consumer when you're at Home Depot saying, I need some shelving units. And then when you're at work producing shelving units, you're a worker and you're saying, yeah, I want to get properly compensated for my efforts. And those two things are competing. One side of you wants cheap product. The other side of you wants to get fairly compensated for producing product. And by giving both of you votes, okay, but just not in the same election, it'll all work out. It'll compensate. It'll create an accountability. So the workers can't be silly, and the consumers can't be fucking cunts. So you just create a system that balances those two interests, and everything will work out just fine. And I'm sure these companies could bury capitalism in about 2 weeks, because capitalists are so wasteful. I mean, all the incessant advertising, all the, you know, all the gimmicks, all the shortcuts, and the, you know, just the totally excessive profits taken out of the work of the workers. You know, all the little fake jobs in the hierarchy, you know, give my brother-in-law a fake job, and all that shit goes away. And of course, the preposterous stockholder incentive CEO, you know, where they pay a preposterous amount of money for a CEO just because it'll make the stock go up. Not because it's good for the company, but just because it'll make the stock go up. All that goes away. But anyway, yeah, no owner. The government doesn't own it. Nobody owns it. It just runs as a business. Period. Nobody has a self-interest in anything other than keeping their job. Yeah, that's it. I just want to keep my job and get my salary. So anyway, I got them all to agree at some point in this stupid idiot conversation. And in the sense that they badgered me, I point out, it's really simple, it's really simple, it's really simple. And finally they agree. And then, not 10 minutes later, after I'm out of the room, just going back to the same bullshit. We need a democracy in the workplace. And you're just like, what did you just agree to, jackasses? There's a better way to do it. So anyway, it just makes it obvious that there's no point in talking to these individuals, because these individuals their brain is locked in epoxy. It's just not moving anywhere. It's not tilting. It's not bending anywhere. They have an agenda, and that's it. And reason has nothing to do with it. Logic has nothing to do with it. It's just no point. And you find that a lot. Like I said, it's just even like arguing a physics thing. You just show preposterous lies, and they can't even just say, "Wow, that's stupid. He shouldn't be lying. He's a physicist. He should do better than that." They can't even say that. It's quite amazing. Horrifying and amazing. So anyway, camera's still working? Yes. Anyway, so I'll play a little of this. I don't know if it's the right place. I don't know. I mean, I just wanted to show that it's just, it doesn't, you have to keep, the minutia and the nitpicking is just so useless. What do you mean democracy doesn't create perfect decision making? I have to explain that to you? That letting the retards vote doesn't do us any good? Oh.
all could agree that if we let the democracy of the people on the bus tell the bus driver how to drive, he's probably going to be a shittier driver, not a better driver.
Well, it seems that would be direct democracy, which would be a different thing, right?
Well, I'm talking about any of...
That would be direct. Why necessarily direct? It would be the influence of the passengers on the bus telling somebody who's a professional and knows what they're doing how to do what they're doing. By any percentage. I mean, like I said, direct versus representative wouldn't matter in that case. If they all elected a representative to go tell the bus driver how to drive the bus, do you think they would be better? I don't think so.
Out of democracy. I'm just saying democracy is not a pure, democracy isn't a good thing. Democracy is diluted intelligence.
Oh, unfortunate.
Bus driver how to drive.
Oh, you
probably
went back.
going to be a shittier driver, not a better driver.
Sorry. I can't really
well,
play
it seems
with it.
that would be direct democracy.
Because if I play with
thing,
it.
Right?
Well, I'm talking about any amount of democracy. I'm just saying
but I'm just saying that's what goes on constantly. You know, you make a point, and then they just kind of try to change the subject. They keep trying to change the subject. And the subject is democracy doesn't create a brilliant thing. It creates a sloppy, messy thing. It's loose poo.
democracy is not a pure, democracy isn't a good thing. Democracy is diluted intelligence. Why would
well, you can have checks and balances on power.
I'm not talking about checks and balances. I'm just saying that why would I ever, when I engineer a building with a democracy, would I do anything with a democracy? No, I would say I want to get the best guy, the most qualified, the guy who's done it 400 times before. I'm going to get the best, if I want to break a horse, I'm going to get a cowboy who knows how to do it. I'm not going to have a democracy and have hey, let's go find a guy who's a plumber, and let's go get a grass cutter, and let's all them decide how to break horses.
Well, now you're talking about division of labor.
See, it just keeps... No, I'm not. I was talking about the fact that it's judgment that you're looking for, you're seeking. And democracy basically said, let's mix the good judgment with the shitty judgment, and what we'll come up with is somehow going to be super great judgment. It doesn't work that way. What you come up with is brown stuff.
No, I'm talking about mixing judgment. We're talking about a system, right? We're saying that this democracy Puro wants to install is supposed to create good judgment. That's what
right, but it would be internal
right?
to the company.
We're talking about the judgment of the company being controlled by a democracy. My simple argument, why are you being so argumentative? My simple argument is democracy isn't smart. Disagree?
Well, it just depends on... I think that there are circumstances where employees could have a say-so over certain things because they're the ones on the ground that know what's going on.
We should let students run the colleges. I mean, it's just...
No.
There's a certain point where there's just... I'm saying I'm for empowering employees in the sense I would just shoot the owners, okay? It's just much simpler. I wouldn't bother with this idiotic notion you're going to mix capitalism and somehow the capitalists aren't going to be offended by a bunch of jackasses telling them how to run their company. Or they're not going to sit there and basically say, I'm not going to employ anybody who's a Puro, okay? If any guy's got any fucking ideas, he's not getting in my company.
Anyway, So, I mean, but you can see how it goes. It's just this incessant pile of shit, nuisance nonsense, where they just won't admit that something is failure. And again, like I said, it really went out of control, spiraled into a complete shit when I dared to propose that it might be a good idea for our human civilization if people spent more time being incentivized to read books than play sports. Yeah, oh, what an outrageous thing to say. There's no way that could be good for civilization. No way. Civilization really needs sports so bad. It's so fucking productive. That's how entrenched these morons are in their shit. I mean, it's no point. So anyway, so yeah, I mean, I really got to waste less time in rooms. I got to waste more time just doing the 10-point plan kind of stuff, just spelling this out and just saying, doing the logic thing where, look, here's the logical argument. Just point out where one of these premises is wrong. Or you just point out the axioms, the basic rules. You can't build buildings crooked. You can't, simple rules. And then have them attempt to say how somehow this perfect blueprint of a successfully engineered building isn't what I claim it to be, which is a perfectly engineered diagram of a successful, this will work building. So anyway, I don't think there's that, I mean, I could, like I said, there was so much more to it, but I mean, it was just so irritating, just such a waste of time. And then, like I said, the part that was amazing is you finally beat them up with the simplicity of it, get them to agree that, okay, maybe democracy isn't Einstein, that you wouldn't make an Einstein by doing democracy. Like, you could have a million monkeys do democracy for a zillion mega multiverses, and they will never make an Einstein. Because they're just going to keep diluting. They're going to keep eating shit. The shit eaters are going to keep, making a mess of it. They're going to keep breaking the blueprint by putting crayon marks on it. All right. Anyway, I think that's enough of an argument. It's just discouraging and irritating. Everything is discouraging and irritating. I can't get free of it. It's just I'm suffocating in discouragement and irritation. I'm literally suffocating in it. Anyway, yeah, it's too bad. I'll get discouraged and irritated by that fact. Yeah. Anyway, it's just too stupid. Sorry, I was just daydreaming about squishing. Beep, beep, boop, boop, beep, boop. Oops, I squished myself. Mistake there. Assholes. Never miss them. Squish. Oh, they're gone. Oh, what a tragedy. Not really. Anyway, until next time.